Hi, I'm Yasmin Halima. I'm the director of the Global Campaign for Microbicides, and we're here at the AIDS 2010 conference in Vienna. One of the big news stories at AIDS 2010 was the result of Caprisa 004, a microbicide trial. I have with me here Dr. Samu Dube, who is the Director of Africa Programs at the Global Campaign. And we're going to be discussing with Dr. Dube what the meaning of the results are for women around the world. So Samu, welcome.
Thank you, Yasmin. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Let me start by asking you, why the big news about Caprisa? What's so special about Caprisa 004?
So, three things. One, Caprisa is one of the first trials after sort of 20 years of research on microbicides that has delivered a significant result that actually means something for women. Secondly, this result actually means a lot for women in Africa, not only because it was done in South Africa by South African researchers, but because we feel that it was licensed. Initially, it was actually meant for developing countries, and we think Africans are ready to roll. So this actually is a significant step in the field and in the right direction.
But we've done many microbicide trials before. Again, why are the results of Caprisa particularly important for the field at this time?
Okay, so because one, it's a significant result, it's a positive result. It has answered so many scientific questions that we have not been able to answer for the past 2 decades. And then the second thing, this trial, as you might know, it was done in South Africa. It was done in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, in a rural area called Vulindlela. It was done in eThekwini, and it was just done in South Africa by South African researchers. And actually, it's very significant for South Africa, particularly, and for Africa, more importantly.
So there's one very interesting feature of Caprisa 004, which is that when women use the gel, they used it before and after sex. Mm-hmm. Now, what is the relevance or the importance of that? And also, there are other trials also testing tenofovir gel. Are they looking at tenofovir gel in the same way?
No, the dosing strategies are different. This is one of the first trials that was looking at before and after sex within a 12-hour period. What it means is that we want to try and raise the concentration of tenofovir within the vaginal tissue so that it's actually effective against HIV at that point of transmission. And so the dosing strategy is different. It wouldn't be prudent probably to actually repeat the same trial with the same dosing strategy, both scientifically and for epidemiological reasons.
And so what does the other voice trial then teach us?
So the voice trial is a daily dosing. It has a daily dosing strategy, and it's got other arms. It actually uses Truvada as well, which is another antiretroviral agent, and it also uses oral medication as well. So it's not just topical, it's both oral and topical application.
And I've heard a lot of talk here about how the results of Caprisa has energized the field.
Certainly.
You're an advocate. Mm-hmm. What does this mean for you as a significant microbicide trial result?
Maybe I should start with what it means for me as a woman and as an African woman. It means we are closer. You know, there is a saying that our days of salvation is closer than when we first began. And I believe that this is a significant step toward that day where a woman will significantly have power to control not only her own sexuality but have power over AIDS. So this is a significant result in that direction. But also, Yasmin, this result is actually going to help spur and provoke debate, which is healthy in science, to answer some of the questions that we actually have been asking ourselves for a long time as to what actually makes a woman vulnerable to HIV and what can we do to reverse that vulnerability. And more importantly, it's going to be one of the trials that will help us answer some of the access questions about women's lives, what happens in households, how can we roll this out, because not just a microbicide, it's other prevention technologies as well that are available.
So I've been very aware that this is the first result. It's the first ARV-containing microbicide to show us a result. And yet in the discussions that I've been in, a lot of the questions have been around access and availability. And the one question that consistently comes up is, when will this be available to women?
So this depends on many variables. The variables around policymakers, it's a policymaker's decision to make this available, depending on what they decide. This was a phase 2B trial. It wasn't actually powered for licensure. We didn't expect that after the results we're going to go about licensing it, but those discussions are going to take place. But also we need to understand, when we are rolling this out, what does it mean for women, the realities where women live. Because honestly speaking, you know, we know that even if we put a tool, a microbicide in a woman's handbag, and hopefully that they're going to use it as well, we know that the realities where they live, you know, their circumstances still make them vulnerable to HIV, socioeconomic status, education levels, and all that make women vulnerable to HIV. So we still need to address all those things before, you know, we can start saying this is going to be the main game changer in the field.
And also there's been a lot of excitement about the results for HSV2 that were found in the study. Could you say a little bit about that and what the excitement has been about?
Yes, so people know that HSV2 particularly, which actually causes genital herpes, is one of the drivers for HIV acquisition. And this particular trial actually showed a 51% reduction for those who actually were on the turn-off of the arm. And it's significantly important because there were trials before that looked at if you try to eradicate HSV acquisition, will you actually reduce HIV acquisition? So this is important for women because the prevalence of HIV in the community is more than half, meaning if you reduce the prevalence of HSV, you will ultimately reduce the acquisition risk for HIV. So this is important as well. So it's actually a double, we celebrate the HIV arm and we celebrate the HSV one as well. And actually this is going to spur the field forward.
Okay, so Samu, I have one last question for you. You said the results are important for women. You're a woman. You're a woman in Africa. You have an important role to play at the global campaign. You're an advocate in the field. What will you do when you go back to Johannesburg and you arrive at your office on Monday morning?
Yeah, but I should actually say, what am I doing now? Because already I am getting calls of people saying, is this available at Clicks in South Africa? And I'm saying, no. So what I know is that I've got lots of work ahead. I've got lots of explaining to do to the women, and more importantly, to mobilize the communities to say, how do we work together? First of all, to understand the realities where women live, so that when we roll this out, eventually we have got that understanding and avoid the failures of the past, the failures that we have had, you know, for the female condom, the inadequate access for the male condom, and even the battles that we have with male circumcision rollout. So we need to understand that, so that when the product finally is licensed, we are ready to go. And then secondly, I need to mobilize and work closely with policy makers in South Africa, in the countries where Global Campaign works particularly South Africa is going to be a pivotal country in this role. Have dialogues, frank dialogues about what do we do with these results. And those dialogues need to happen as soon as possible. So for me, the first thing is communities, women, where women live, other advocates, treatment advocates, other prevention advocates, then policy makers, they need to also come on board. And then importantly, we still need to debate and be in the same room with other scientists who are going and ask some of the scientific questions that remain unanswered from this clinical trial.
Samu, I know how busy you are, so thank you very much for taking the time to join us. And thank you for joining us at AIDS 2010 to hear the results and the implications of the first ever microbicide trial to show us a positive result. Thank you.